Welcome to the program. It's great to have your company. The Department of Defence has a long-standing reputation for waste, mismanagement and a lack of accountability. Tonight, 7:30 has a close look at one recent case. Why were the Navy's key transport ships missing in action over summer as Cyclone Yassi bore down on the Queensland coast? To give some context first, though, the Defence Department makes one of the biggest calls on the public purse, $27 billion this financial year. There are currently 11 defence projects with a combined worth of $10 billion running over time and over budget. For example, there's the Wedgetail Airborne Early Warning Aircraft, approved 14 years ago and still not airworthy. There are the Overlander Field vehicles, constantly delayed and still at testing stage. And the Collins-class submarines with huge maintenance issues. Over summer, the Defence Minister's patience with his department was tested to its limits when he was repeatedly told that the only available transport ship was seaworthy when it wasn't. 7:30 can confirm the HMAS Tobruk was so riddled with rust that in places its hull was just 2 millimetres thick. Here's Hayden Cooper.
At Sydney's Garden Island Naval Base, 3 of the nation's most crucial defence assets sit idle. These are the Navy's ageing hulks, the heavy lift transport ships that put troops on the ground around the world.
So it's a pretty important vessel for not only the Navy but the entire Defence Force?
Yeah, massive for Australia.
But if these ships are the very backbone of the force, how is it that all 3 were out of action at the same time, just as Cyclone Yassi was threatening North Queensland?
We've been caught short. We've got a large capability gap in our Navy. We've got a large capability gap in our Defence Force. And it leaves us with the question of how did this happen and how are we going to fix it?
The whole future plan for Navy appears to me to be institutionalised chaos.
As the cyclone brewed off the coast, the government started preparing and defence support was vital. On 3 occasions, the minister was told HMAS Tobruk was ready to respond, but it never was.
It's very difficult to say whether lies were told, whether incorrect advice was given, but at the very least there's a communications problem there.
I have some sympathy for the minister. He has been misled.
After 6 months in charge, Stephen Smith has set out to take a hard line with the defence chiefs and bureaucrats, and even his opponent blames the department, not him.
He's exasperated, and I share his exasperation.
A warning of all this trouble for Australia's amphibious fleet has been on the radar since September, when HMAS Canimbla and Manura were docked for routine checks. The results were not good. Serious work was needed to repair gearboxes and rust. So serious that rumours started to spread.
These 2 ships are extensively corroded. People tell me they could punch their fists through bulkheads.
Well, people have told you that, but they haven't told me, Senator.
It wasn't the only alarming piece of news. It soon emerged that HMAS Canimbla had come perilously close to disaster when it lost power in Sydney Harbour. With more than 200 sailors and a $90 million helicopter on board, the Canimbla was just 20 metres away from foundering on the rocks. Opposition spokesman David Johnston has uncovered details of the incident.
The emergency was so serious that the skipper of the vessel, the commanding officer of the vessel, called civilian tugboats to come and assist them. Now, for Navy to have to ring up and call in an emergency civilian assistance, call for a civilian assistance, I think underlines how perilous the situation was.
Both ships were taken out of service. The Canimbla for 18 months, the Manura for good. 7:30 has been given the first access to the Navy workhorses, though the areas of significant damage were kept off limits.
It's not good to see a ship go out this way. We're all happy with what we've done and what we've achieved being on here.
The move leaves the Navy with just 1 active heavy transport ship.
It's HMAS Tobruk. Welcome on board. Thanks.
But 7:30 can now reveal the extent of the sorry state of the nation's last option. While Tobruk was never called on to respond to the cyclone, the ABC has confirmed that it was in no fit state to sail. In some places its hull was so corroded it was just 2 millimetres thick when it should have been at least 10. The best advice was it would need 2.5 months in dry dock. But under pressure from its minister when it couldn't supply another ship, Defence demanded it be ready in 24 hours. So a steel plate was welded to the hull in an emergency patch-up job. Defence and the crew on board now assure the minister that the Tobruk is back in the water, ready for action.
48 hours for us means we're like a tightly coiled spring ready to pounce at any given moment.
Anything happens and you're gone.
Correct. We're ready to go.
James Brown is a former Army officer and now a defence analyst with the Lowy Institute. To him, the news of Tobruk's state of disrepair is no surprise.
Well, Navy amphibious ships are particularly prone to rust and corrosion because they have seawater inside as well as outside. And these are old ships. There's been concerns in Navy about the ability of Tobruk to keep going, to keep operating and to carry us through for a number of years.
So who then is responsible for the state of the fleet and the incorrect advice to the minister? That advice about the readiness of the Tobruk came from the Chief of Navy, Vice Admiral Russ Crane.
I want some accountability. I think the minister wants some accountability. He's got to go and get it.
How?
Well, I think he's got to analyse when someone says something to him. If it's not true, then the person that says it, has to bear some responsibility.
So you're saying the Chief of Navy should be sacked?
Well, if the Chief of Navy is giving advice on such an important issue as to amphibious shift lift in the face of a serious cyclone in North Queensland, and that information is not true, I think it speaks for itself.
Hayden Cooper with that report, and we did approach both the Chief of Navy and the head of the Defence Force to be interviewed for tonight's report, but both declined.